Hello and welcome to episode 127 of The Imperial Truth. I'm Greg. Joining me now we have Social Monkey, Mr. Robbing.
Good evening. I wasn't expecting that title, but good evening, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
Oh, steady away. Just eating a banana.
Well, there we go. No comment. Before we move anywhere, let us mention Element Games. I've got a load of credit actually sitting there waiting. I'm trying to hold off putting an order in because I know I'm just going to end up with a lot of toys that are sat in the corner that I want to get round to. But
don't talk to me about massive piles of toys to get round to. But yeah,
they're going to delay other projects. But there's definitely stuff I need. I went and bought loads of aeroplanes. Yeah, the
all right.
Yeah. So I got a few of them just because I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's a game that I want to get more of because I can play it at the start of the club, before my opponent arrives, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Arrive the next day. It's fantastic. I love it when that happens. It's just...
Mine did this week. I was at work on Tuesday. I thought, I'll order this now. I won't get it tomorrow. It'll arrive on Thursday when I've got a day off. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon. Put it in, it arrived the next day.
Oh, wow.
Still arrived the next day.
Blimey, that's a bit of luck.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic when that happens. And you still get, nice healthy discount, 20% on the pre-order week. Mm-hmm. And and a wide range of stuff as well. Whatever you're into, you'll probably be able to get it at Element Games. Fantastic. I did mention your title. I do want to say I did have someone reply on Twitter. Can't remember exactly what they said, but they said thanks, Rob, at the end of it.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I don't have the Twitter anymore.
Exactly. So if it's on Twitter, it's definitely me. If it's on Facebook,
I'm
it's
not quite
Rob.
that multi-talented when it comes to the social medias.
No, it's all good. And sometimes in the replies, it will be a random selection of Greg or Rob, but it's all good. Sometimes some people will be able to work it out. I'm sure some won't. But,
yeah, yours is generally nicer.
Yeah, it has been known. It's taken a lot of practice to get to that point.
Yeah,
the people who listen to this show aren't generally too bad.
No,
I'll give them that. There are a few who I know don't listen, or I'm pretty sure don't listen, but tag along on things. And sometimes I see a couple of those posts, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think you're a listener. Whatever, that's fine. We try and keep a bit of a track on it. In general, things are quite good.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know if I get anybody saying things about me like they say about you on Reddit. Similar level.
I doubt it.
Ah, well, I can try.
Yeah. They do. I kind of think that. I could get in trouble for saying this. I kind of think Australia is the Yorkshire of the world.
Excuse me.
In that everyone who's from there, there's that classic I'm Australian / I'm Yorkshire, I tell it how it is. And 90% of those people never say a nice thing when they say that.
That may be.
Yeah.
I think up here that's a bit more generational than it used to be. But
to be fair,
might have to grudgingly.
Yeah, and also a lot of them don't even live there anymore, but still say it's the greatest place in the world.
Well, there is that.
Yeah. And you wonder why they haven't gone back. But it's all good.
They can't all live there, otherwise no one in London would be able to get a beer.
That is true. That is very, very true. But, what can we do? It doesn't work for the Yorkshiremen. But there we go. It's all,
no, that's true.
It's all fun, and it's all said in jest. Before I get anything, we love everyone, or we hate everyone equally. I think that's probably more accurate. So, no prejudice here from me.
No, that's true. I had to tell myself off earlier because I told someone on the Facebook, no swearing. And then I realised, oh, wait, that was John from the Boys of the Golden Throne. Sorry, John.
Yeah, he's never going to not swear.
I've listened to enough of their shows to realise that's never going to happen.
I agree with the sentiment, though.
Oh, totally.
It's with your sentiment, not his.
All right.
Per se. So there's just ways of doing things, and on this show we tend to steer that way. And there are plenty of other.
Keep it safe for work.
Yeah, within reason. Anyone who actually knows me, it was quite funny when I ran my first event in Cardiff. Was when I met quite a few people for the first time who'd only ever listened to the show, in one place, and I think quite a few people were shocked.
Oh, did they notice the difference in your vocabulary when it's not being recorded?
I'm not terrible, but
no.
But what I don't have is, particularly from not being around kids for a long time, just not having any in the family. That's what I mean. Is In fact, I met an old friend of ours, Marcus Pitt, in a games day once, and I must have dropped a couple of F-bombs, and he was like, kind of looked at his kid, and I was like, oh, yeah, oh.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you'll get used to that.
And you might notice an edit there as well. But
yeah, only Dan Abnett's allowed to swear on the podcast.
Well, yeah, he got away with it somehow. Somehow, Black Library authors have been the worst for editing in terms of their language, and not, would you believe, not Aaron Dembski-Bone. He's been very well behaved. It's crazy. But yes, it's all good fun. You've been doing a bit of hobby, haven't you? So we had a discussion a little while ago about your plans for the year, because I was trying to offload my Mechanicum on you. Still got some Mechanicum for sale, by the way, kids. I'm going to put it up on eBay soon. But if you're after some Mechanicum, I do have some, including a rather nice Isle of Tax. I didn't make it; someone else did. But yeah, we were having a discussion because you wouldn't buy any off me because you're a git.
No,
but
no, because you just didn't have anything that I wanted. Your list was basically exactly what I didn't want.
Good.
Which, unfortunate, but
it's a good list.
I'm not giving you me money for stuff I don't want.
No, that's fair enough. And we were discussing, because obviously anyone who works hard for a living and has a family and everything else, you have your own money commitments outside of the hobby. And we were chatting about, because I was chatting about mine as well. As, part of the reason I'm selling my Mechanicum. If I didn't need to, I wouldn't bother. But if they're sitting there not being used and I can use that money to go to Nova, then let's make the most of that money. But you wanted a list based around an Acastus Porphyrion.
Yes. I wanted something big and shiny.
It's a beautiful model.
And I was like, do I want the Asterius? Do I want a Porphyrion or Porphyrion, or the bottle pronunciation, the Propyron? Or do I want a Warhound? And I was debating backwards and forwards, and I asked a few people, and every single person came down on the side of the Porphyrion.
Yeah, I know certain people think it's a lot better than a Warhound. I think it has different good matchups.
Yeah.
Void Shield sometimes are brilliant. And sometimes the Ion Shield is brilliant, and depends on what you're fighting. Titans bring some special rules into play that I know I felt when I was playing against some lists, I'd prefer to have, in fact, playing against a Warhound, I was like, I'd prefer to have the Warhound in this matchup. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just because I think the weaponry can be that much more destructive.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to take any D options because that's... Yeah.
It's just your thing, yeah.
Yeah, the way I ended up looking at it, I was like, the Warhound, it's a lovely kit, but it's an old kit. It really is an old kit now. It's pushing on for 20 years. Yeah. And when you look at it, yes, obviously there's a lot of carapace, there's a lot of flat space, but there's a lot of stuff that isn't carapace that's flat space.
Sure.
Whereas if they redid it now, that would have something on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
it would have more gubbins, more greeblies for those who watch Adam Savage. It would have more stuff on it, whereas it's aged well overall, but there's certain bits of it you can tell it's a much older kit from before Forge World kind of really knew not knew what they were doing, but they hadn't fully got into the right. We make massive stuff. This is what we do.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it was one of their earlier big kits in that respect. And without the aid of a lot of the design processes that came later. I also think, in terms of having an army with it in, that if you're going to have a Warhound and make it fit, then you kind of have to go down the whatever they're called, the hoplites or those kind of things
that's where I wanted to
justify it. Yeah.
That's where I wanted to go, so that's how I was like, because putting the Titan in makes the hoplites compulsory troops.
Yeah, but I think, if to me it feels like there's only one, like unless you're playing a huge game, to narratively fit it in becomes more of a struggle.
Yeah,
because you're much more limited. Whereas the Porphyrion, yes, it's a Mechanicum thing, so you can have it in any Mechanicum army and work it a bit better. Slightly more scope, but you've also got the knight aspect of it then as well. Yeah,
you've got although they're supposed to be quite rare, the Acastus frame could be more common. That there might just be one in a main Forge World's main Forge complex.
Yeah.
That could be part of the defense force. So that's where I'm kind of going with mine, that my mech are going to be like the muster of a certain forge that's been attacked. So there's going to be some Moirax, there's the Porphyrian, but other than that, it's basically all people.
Yeah. No, it's a hell of a piece of kit. I need to. Mine stayed in the car a little bit too long when I moved house, actually, and its las cannons are a little bit wonky, so I need to get on and fix them, and then finally get around to sorting the arms out so I can have them removable but pinnable, which I never got round to.
I haven't taken mine out of the box yet. I've looked at it and looked at the bags and gone brilliant, and then I haven't really had time to sort of do anything with it yet.
Double check your leg struts.
Right.
The leg panels, armor panels, have they correspond to a leg strut with either. So basically, they've got the center of it is a cutout, and then there's different sizes or different numbers of things, and obviously there's 2 for each thing. And the person who built mine didn't realise that till they glued 2 in and got them wrong, and I kind of had to chop out one of the blocks in the middle to expand it. It was fine, you could do it, but it was just a hassle that you don't necessarily have to have. But,
right, yeah. I shall bear that in mind.
Nice and simple.
I'll be building away, and then your voice will come drifting through the ether when I get to that stage, no doubt. And
don't do what a prominent Age of Sigmar 40k Twitcher did and put the legs on backwards on both a Titan and a Porphyrian. Warhound, yes. Schoolboy.
I don't know who that is, but I want to know, but I bet you're not going to tell me while you're recording.
Not on the air. It's all good. He probably wouldn't mind, to be fair, but I won't bother. But what you have done, you started on the troops, is that right? You put a video up on the Facebook?
Yes, I've started on my hoplites.
Cool.
I had the idea for the hoplites, and that's basically what convinced me to do the whole army. I was like, that would work.
Sure.
So that idea has been rattling around in my head since December. And I had a pop-up building some last night. So what I've done is I've taken the hoplite upgrade kit, but I've put it onto Delac bodies from the Necromunda range.
So that's not too bad. How many Delac bodies do you get in a box?
10.
10 for 20 quid? 25 quid?
22 from Element Games, 22.50.
So that's not too bad, actually, that you're paying it. Don't get me wrong, it's not cheap, but
it works out at £2.25, I think it is, more expensive than buying the whole unit of 10 kit direct from Forge World.
Oh, right, okay. So it's really not that bad then.
I only bought one, like enough to do 10 this time.
Yeah.
But if, for example, you were doing, I'm going to have like 35 in my list. If I'd bought everything from Forge World and everything from Element and kicked in free shipping on both of them, I think it would work out a couple of quid cheaper.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, negligible difference over the price of an army, but...
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, they're not noticeably more expensive, certainly not over the course of a whole army. It might be a $5 difference over 30 or 40 troops.
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, even if they were, £10 more expensive per model, but it's the effect you want. £10 not, £1 a model it's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not like I'm not doing a Lex from Crusade and Heresy and buying a Leviathan Dread and a Custodes Dread and a Legion specific Dread to make one Dread.
Absolutely. I mean, I do own a model. My friend had a brilliant idea of, he was doing Custodes. And so he decided to make a Custodes glaive. But
ouch. Oh, yeah, because they need the help, like.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not allowed to take one. Which he didn't realise till after he bought the glaive and the troop carrier, the Caladius? No, that's the small one. Whichever one it is.
Coronas?
Coronas, yeah. And those, the side hover bits of the Coronas are about the same length as a glaive. And it works. So he was like, then I'm going to sell it. And I'm like, actually, it makes a brilliant, Age of, an old relic weapon for heresy even. So I kind of was like, I might have that for when I eventually get around to playing some Space Wars and have it just counting as a glaive because I think it looks kind of awesome. So, yeah, I mean, he spent, I don't know how much money.
A lot.
Compare those two. I don't even know how much a glaive is off the top of my head.
Out of the two of them, you're not getting much change out of 300
exactly,
quid.
for a glaive, you know. But that's Joe, and he does that occasionally with some big models. I think he cut up a Marenberg land ship at one point, or he was going to, but then didn't. And thankfully he didn't, because he then sold it when all of a sudden it was worth some decent money. But he's cut up some big models in his time.
God, I was getting nervous trimming down the shoulder joints on the hoplite upgrade kit, but you know,
yeah. It's all part of the fun. So yeah, that's cool. And so your aim is you set your aims for Blood and Glory, don't you?
Yeah, generally. I'm not going to rush these ones. If they're not ready by October, then I'll bring one of the other armies that I've got. I would like to bring these, but sure. I don't have quite as much time as I have done in the past, so I'm not going to batter them to get them through as quick as possible. I'm going to enjoy doing them, but hopefully I'll be able to bring them to the table.
That's awesome.
For Blood and Glory. But I am going to base them the same as my Space Wolf army.
Sure.
So I might be able to half and half it.
That's a sensible idea, and it's one of those things, for those who don't play Age of Sigmar, essentially Age of Sigmar's factions have been broken down into 4. So if you're playing Order, and Order contains a lot of armies of dubious moral fibre, shall we say.
But apparently Dark Elves are good now.
Well, they're not good. They're forces of order, as opposed to chaos. So, exactly. In terms of I'm going to have any forces of order will have the same basis, because then if I do want to have allies, I can just do it. And I'm doing the same with my Space Wolves Heresy. That's going to have the same as what my Mechanicum did, and I'm doing the same for 40k. Anything I do for 40k will have the same basis. Yeah, so all the bases match. So it just makes sense. Like my Custodians, my Space Wolves, any Mechanicum I have, all my Knights will then go on the same base, because why not? I mean, I understand if you have a specific design for an army and you're not going to swap it in, then fair enough. Like, it can be annoying sometimes to think I would prefer a different colour on this base and that. But if you're a gamer kind of thing who's like, these are my gaming models and I want to use them for a variety of things, it makes sense to have those interchangeable bases. And you can do it in a way where like one feature of it's the same, so it's obviously in the same world.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
If I went back, I'd rebase my Alpha Legion and my Solar to do the same, so that everything could go with everything.
Yeah, but hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
It is, and it's always 20/20.
Well, most of the time.
Well, yeah.
Awesome. On my front, I'd love to report that I've done lots of painting. I put some silver on some assassins. I'm going to a 40k tournament in a couple of weeks, a doubles event, and I've got 1,000 points, and I'm taking 10 assassins, because 10 assassins.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, what flavour assassin, or are you mixing it up?
Well, to do it, I have to have 2 sets of 4, so one of each, and then it's an extra Vindicare, and then I think we're going to go for an extra Eversoul, because it's the coolest. Not rules-wise, just the coolest.
And will you get them painted?
Well, they're black already, so I'm halfway there.
I was going to say, you can't really struggle to finish 10 assassins.
And they're going to, and hopefully at some point, I know the Aussie guys have made rules for assassins as in Heresy, but I think we'll get them in Heresy in time.
It would be very cool. It would be very cool.
It's one of those things that you kind of hope they just throw out there. Like, if they're not in the book that's coming, that they just kind of go, oh, by the way, here are some rules for assassins. I don't think it would be a huge stretch for
Allied detachment only, counts as both a HQ and it's one mandatory troops in the one model.
However they do them, whatever they do, I don't, it doesn't bother me too much. But you would have thought that they could come up with, we've already got 7th edition rules, old 7th edition rules for them. They would need a little bit of tweaking, I'm sure. But like, that would be a cool thing if they had a quiet period for them to just go, they're not here yet, but
they're coming.
We know you want them, so have these as trial rules.
I mean, they're certainly in the books. I mean,
of a whole book.
They're that old in the books. You've even got as far as them in After an Ullanor, for crying out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So they're not exactly book 37 or anything.
No, definitely not. So that will all do. But that's been pretty much it. We've started. I was like big plans to get some hobby done. I've still got baby stuff all stuck in this room. I'm still flecked with white paint from painting the nursery today, the wrong kind of painting. We're having like our bathroom done as well by my stepdad. Like that's all up in the air at the moment. The joys of getting everything ready for baby Truth, the little sod already.
It's all right when they arrive. With any luck, it'll be. Well, first couple of weeks will be hell on earth. And you won't sleep, and you won't see Emma, and you'll think, "Oh God, what have I done?" And then you'll hopefully settle down into a nice routine when they spend most of the time asleep.
Who knows? I'm not.
Well, mine certainly did. Whether he was just particularly bored by Star Trek, I don't know. I'm not brave enough to make any hopes, just in case. But I'm fully prepared to read him some Abnett, to get him to sleep and that kind of thing. It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, my hobby's been slow. In fact, I put together 2 planes. I think that's pretty much all I've done apart from that, because I was doing something else and I could put together stuff at the same time. So I've got to get on it a little bit. That's all right. You put together 2 planes. I've put together 10 infantry people, but most of my hobby has just been spending. I've been doing what you did. I've cleared out everything. Yeah, pretty much.
So this is where we started, actually.
And then just given all the money straight back to Tony Cottrell.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, I've talked a little bit now about the nature of getting rid of stuff you don't need. And your Mechanicum project was... You're a proper gamer in that you don't want to sell stuff. You want to hoard stuff. How many Mark II? Was it Mark II Marines you had?
No, Mark III.
Mark III. How many Mark III Marines did you have?
I sold 60. I gave somebody 5 because I haven't figured out what I want for them yet, and I think I've still got another. I sold 60 incomplete sprues, right, 5 in another incomplete sprue, and I've probably got enough left to build another 20, 25, maybe.
If you can hear, Magnus has now joined me. So if you do hear any cat noises,
or if anything goes wrong,
it's
then
the little ginger one. Yeah,
it was Magnus. Yeah,
and I think you said to me, I've got best part of 100 Mark III Marines just in case. And it's the just in case bit which is the problem, because we all have those models just in case.
Yeah.
But when you have those models for 4 years just in case, sometimes you have to ask yourself that hard question of, is just in case ever going to happen? If you've got a solid plan, no, those models are for this plan. I am going to do this plan when, and you've got that, then that's fine. That's cool. And, if you don't want to get rid of anything ever, that's cool. But you were dead set on getting the Acastus and the Mechanicum, and it's like, just let some stuff go.
Yeah, and I funded 2/3 of the army in 10 days.
Exactly.
Just getting rid of stuff that was kind of, hashtag one day.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, actually, one day for me might be something that somebody else is like, I really need this to finish something. So
and also, like, at the moment, I haven't been able to buy a huge amount of stuff. I've seen some stuff go up on quite good deals on buy, swap, sell, and I'm like, that is something that I'm going to need in the next, like, I want to expand my sisters, like, because I could do 5 sisters or a tank for them, kind of separate from everything else as a bit of a cleanser, and it will go straight into that army and be used. Oh, there's a good deal on that. And I'm like, I've got enough to paint. It's not happening. I'm going to miss out on this deal, and I'm going to pay 10, 15 quid more later on. But actually, that's the better way. And it's hard because it's counter to, I'm tight. I could have been Northern, and I see that deal and I'm like, it makes sense to buy it now to save the money later, but actually, no, it doesn't. It's actually better for me not to buy it now. So
yeah, I mean, I've bought more in the last fortnight than I normally would, but it's just because when it's sat in PayPal, it's not real money.
Yeah, there's always that as well.
You know what I mean? It comes straight in on PayPal, stuff gets posted, and out it goes.
Well, that's it. And my, I've sold a little, 3 or 4 items, 3 items, I think, from my Mechanicum, and I've got about 160 odd quid sat in my bank, and I moved it to a separate bank account because I'm like, this is my Nova money.
Yeah.
And to pay for the flight, I have to get the money into that account first and then I can take it out, and it's that reminder that it's there. So get up, get some more stuff, get some stuff on eBay, and put that on, and then pull that money into that account, and then when I've hit enough, go and buy the ticket. I've pre-booked the room. That happened, so I'm in the hotel that I want to be in. I've booked a double room, which is two double beds, I think. So at the very least, I've got room to share with one. So hopefully I can split that cost in at least half by the 12. I don't expect anyone to take the first night because I might have a day in Washington because it's so close to everything that's touristy in Washington and all that goes with that. So I don't expect that, but maybe like Adepticon, the first Adepticon I went to, we had 5 in the room, just to keep the cost down. But we've had 4 most years I've been doing that. The good thing about the Adepticon was it's queen size doubles. So yep, cool. Shack up. Let's save some money. You're only there to sleep. It's all good.
If you're a heavy enough sleeper.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. But I certainly can. If someone rolls in at 2 o'clock, the chances are I won't wake up, and then I'll get up at 6, very quietly make my way downstairs for breakfast and be off, and maybe I come back for a shower, halfway through the day almost, and do it that way round, so as not to wake too many people up or whatever. But it's part of what you do to help keep
I have
costs
the
down.
unfortunate opposite, that I snore like a diesel train,
but
I'm also a very light sleeper, so as soon as somebody else starts, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm just awake all night going, I want to kill you. I want to kill you, knowing full well that if I was asleep, I'd probably be making more noise.
And that's it. It's I'm aware that it's easy for me to fall asleep, so that makes it easier. But you do what you can where you can to save that money.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Nova's looking okay at the moment, which is good. I just need to get on with some stuff, and I just really out of the blue got a bonus at work, which I didn't think we were ever going to get bonuses. And I was like, actually, there's some money there. And people have already told their wives about it at work. And
fatal mistake.
Yeah, the first one was, Valentine's Day is coming. I was like, you poor fool. He's got, I should have said it was half the value of what it was. But for me, it's like, okay, cool. That means I can afford to take... I was going to take a week's paternity leave anyway, even though the money's rubbish. We could afford to do that, but now I can afford to boost it up, so I'm not losing any wages, and then I can put this money towards this and this, and I might take 70 quid out to buy some Ruinstorm Demon Brutes or something. Like I might just take a little bit out of that, which is nice because it's not easy. It's not easy to buy everything you want, is it?
Oh God, no.
No. And especially when it's resin and Forge World is a premium price.
Yeah. It's cheap if you compare it to Lego, I found recently.
Big time. It's cheap when you compare it to a lot of things, but yeah, Lego's one of them. But looking at like some of the new tanks are out, like some of them are fairly weighty in price, and it's like, again, I'm like, just chill. Just set that budget, because if we move on to what's coming out, Sons of the Selenar's out tomorrow as we record, so it's already probably been out. Yes, 10 o'clock on GW GMT.
Limited or normal?
Limited. So this is the novella.
Too rich for me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think it's 40 quid. It's part of the limited edition, and it's the story of the crew of the Sisypheum. And that's the one thing where I nailed my flag to the post, and I will be getting to the mast. I will be getting all the limited editions, so that's cool.
Very nice.
Next month we'll be getting the limited edition of Book 4, Saturnine by Dan Abnett. So
I'm still waiting on Book 3 for the Kindle.
Yeah, true. But that month's hobby budget pretty much got on that book. Fair enough. It's cool. I know what I got into when I was doing it, and I'm happy with that choice. But
you can wangle it now though to spend more on books, because reading is quiet and doesn't wake a baby up.
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
Just a little angle you can use there. Why have you spent all that on that book? Because it's quiet and it won't wake the baby up.
No, see, this is where I'm very fortunate. Emma is extremely supportive of this. I mean, you kind of have to be, I suppose, when I do podcasts that I do and everything else.
How many is it now?
Well, it's 3, but this one's going once a month, so that is cutting back a bit. But Yeah, she's very supportive. She's like, it's your money, spend it on what you want. Just as long as I'm contributing and not putting pressure on her to do anything. And if it ever got to that point, I would like to think that I would step in myself before she even did that and go, this isn't fair.
Yeah.
But, I can spend my money that I've got. But yeah, that's coming. But we've also had stuff from Forgewell. We've had quite a few good weeks.
Oh, yeah. They've just pressed go on a load of stuff without telling anybody.
I'm trying to think what we've had. So what have we had recently?
We'd had the Sabre before last ep,
yeah,
because you mentioned the Sabre.
Yes, we had we had the Dawnbreakers. That would have been
yeah, and there was the other Bombard, the Grav.
Well, that was shown off, wasn't it?
The Dark Angel one was shown off.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that on the Road to Thramas. We've had the second Road to Thramas.
And the preview of the Dark Angels.
Oh. Yeah, so, I mean...
Oh, my God.
Yeah. What were your thoughts about that?
Well, I've got 8,500 points of 6th Legion Fenrisian Finest in a case, and I shouldn't like that. I shouldn't like them, but good God, they're amazing.
So these are, I'm sure people have seen them, the Road to Thramas, Part 2. These are the Cenobium, Inner Circle Knights Cenobium. So these are a temporary cell of warriors from an order of the Dark Angels assembled on the eve of a mission that requires their unique skills. So they're like SAS in Terminator armour.
Yes, Dark Angels 18.
Yeah, absolutely. And picture coming out of a mastodon's pretty scary for starters. But
picture of them just stood there is pretty bleeding scary.
The models are. Someone at the club who's a 40k player was like, they're just a bit busy for them. But I think that's the beauty of them. They're knightly. They've got good movement. They're not like over the top movement.
No, but they're not messing about.
No, there's a lot going on there. But in terms of being knightly, you would expect that.
Yeah,
I think
they are lovely,
and they're all armed with tyrannic greatswords, which are pretty good, to be fair, and a plasma cutter. Don't know what that is, but it sounds pretty.
It's plasma, so it's not going to be friendly, is it?
No, and are they kind of like mini shields on their arms, like a combat?
I think that's the plasma thing cutter built in, isn't it? So it doesn't, because the tyrannic greatswords they're all hand and a half swords. So.
Yeah, but they've also got it's quite a flat panel on the back of the thing as well. I don't know, but
but it looks like they're going to have some form of plasma weaponry and a tyrannic greatsword, and they're in cataphractic Terminator armor.
And before the game begins, you can select the order that your Inner Circle Knights are from. So I think we're going to see this a lot with the Dark Angels, that they have these kind of select. We've already got the hexagrammon, and now we've got this as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few more rules like this.
Yeah, it's going to be like the Alpha Legion Mutable Tactics, isn't it? You can just pick.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be
something to benefit you before the start of every game.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be less like over the whole army. Like the hexagrammon will affect it, but then I think you could see this knightly order thing being used here and there, which would be quite cool. I hope so. Anyway, we've got each one is dedicated to a singular creed of war. Each different order provides the unit with a special rule for the duration of the battle that enhances their specific fighting style. So that's before a game begins. So that doesn't have to be written down or anything. Obviously, the more narrative people will probably paint theirs up to suit a particular order and then play with that all the time. I can imagine Duncan. Choosing whatever and then creating his knights to fit that with their colour scheme and everything. But if you're more of a gamer, then you can do it to suit you and whichever battle you're actually playing.
One thing I've noticed, going back to the models, I've just noticed on one of them there is a feather hanging off the belt of one of them, like there was on the original early 90s Dark Angel Deathwing kit.
Yeah, so
which is just a nice little nod.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the original Deathwing, what was it? Was it called Deathwing the short story?
There was a Deathwing novel, I think it was by Brian Watson.
There was also the short story of how the first night, wasn't it?
They were based on the First Nations, weren't they? They were American, indigenous Native Americans.
Yeah, and then they
changed that story.
dab themselves in the ash of a fire on their armour and stuff. But yeah, and the feathers it looks like a little hark back to that. I like the Doctor Doom kind of masks as well.
I think
fantastic.
The one who's obviously the leader, he might be a bit on the busy side for me, but
there is a lot going on. But
you can take the wing. I bet that bit on his top of his head. Just don't bother putting that on if you don't want to.
Yeah, I'm sure. But things like the keys, the keys on his belt, they fit the Dark Angel so well.
Oh yeah.
There is a bit going on, but then he's a character, almost character level Dark Angel. So it kind of should be. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. The article itself seemed to go down quite well as well. I like, it's more positivity on that whole thing that we're talking about in terms of moving forwards with Heresy, and seeing it on Warhammer Community, and there are other stuff to come as well on Warhammer Community to do with Heresy.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see the sort of constant stream of stuff, or the constant attention.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things I know about that's kind of coming at some point, maybe. But
really? Press pause.
We've got no, there's no time scale on it. It's nothing major. It's not going to blow people's minds. I'm not going to get carried away with that respect. But
somebody will. You may as well start.
There's some support there for Heresy moving forwards, and it'll be interesting to see exactly what that is and how that works going forwards. But yeah, I like it. I think it's really cool. And what it does is it gets people talking about it. So I've seen 40k players. In fact, one of those 40k players is mainly an Age of Sigmar player saying, is it now I finally start Heresy, collecting Heresy models? And that's a good thing. It's showing that their support's there. So where I've been quite vocal on here before about people outside of the Heresy not really knowing what's going on, this is helping them.
Yeah, massively.
On the downside of that, you always get the 40k players who are, why can't we have this in 40k? It's tiring. It's tiresome. It's I don't tend to get back at it anymore. In terms of just let it go. But you can imagine.
I couldn't resist something I said earlier. With the same reason you can't have a Primaris Hobbit. It's a different game.
Yeah, and 10,000 years is reason enough for certain things. I understand they want it. It kind of made me laugh that you're kind of seeing. Maybe we've been there. I've been there when I've been playing games, or in other instances where I'm like, I'm used to having everything for what I'm doing. So why can't I have that? And you're not consciously doing it, but you're like, well, that's a Space Marine vehicle, so it should be a Mayblade. And it's not mean, and it doesn't mean to be kind of aggravating towards Heresy players. But the people who are saying it just don't understand. They're like, but why wouldn't it be available to me? It looks cool. It's a Space Marine. I want it. Yeah, you do want it.
It's simple. Play Heresy then. Have as many as you want.
And the answer is, and Forge World have given this answer, well, it's a Heresy vehicle. I will say it's not available for 40k until it is available for 40k.
Yeah.
So let's not pretend that it might not be available. We said the same with Custodes, that kind of thing. At the end of the day, if GW want to make more money off something, they can port it
up
over.
To 40k players, yeah.
Yeah. And I understand that. It would be nice if they reserved some stuff for Heresy, but I don't blame them for not for transferring stuff over when they do. It might annoy me and whatever, but hey, at the end of the day, you've got to let it go.
If it sells more models that can get them to pay for more staff that gets us more Heresy content, then fine. Sell them to football players if they want. Never mind just 40k players.
It's one of those things. I think you just got to let it go. Just let it roll over.
There's a song in there somewhere.
Yeah. Let people just do what they will, and we crack on and we show how cool it can be in Heresy.
It's a nice bit of kit, that new one, the Arquita Bombard with a spicular rocket system.
Just about to say it. So this one was the release this morning, or up for pre-order this morning. Yeah. So this is the same chassis as the Bombard gun? Is it?
I think so. Looks like it.
Yeah, but interesting that we got this version
looks completely different with the different Legion paint job. Makes it look like a different vehicle, but yeah.
And just the nature of the way the guns are on it, it's fantastic. But I don't know if I fully like it.
I think it needs a dozer blade.
That would help, maybe.
Or it needs like 2 half dozer blades.
So it's got. We were talking about before we came online, before we started recording. It's obviously got echoes of a Sakaran. It's got a similar kind of side profile, although it's a bit bigger and a bit thicker.
Mm-hmm.
I think this. So Andy Hoare said on Facebook that it's the same profile or same footprint as a Land Raider, which if it's exactly the same would make it a little bit bigger than the Sakaran. It does look taller from the side pictures, and it looks maybe a little bit wider, and it's in the reverse position that a Sakaran would be, shall we say. So it's driving with its bulk forwards. Someone did say in yellow it does remind them a bit of Wall-E, and I can see that a little bit.
Yeah, there's a kind of can't unsee that.
But I think that's partly the colour thing. But yeah, I don't know if I love it, but I kind of like it. A dozer blade would make it look a little bit more World War II from the front.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I mean, people would
it's ticking all that. What's the term that GW used? The design language.
Yes,
it's speaking that 30k design language. It might be speaking it backwards for some people, but then the windows are facing in the right direction, so it isn't backwards. So, but yeah, it's more stuff. It's new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it pointed out a couple of times that it has echoes of the Navy Hedgehog, the gun system, which actually I've just Googled. You may have heard the keyboard going. And, oh my God, yes, it does.
Man looks up thing quick.
Man looks up something on the internet. Yep, absolutely. And that's kind of cool. And, you know, it's well known that a lot of Forge World designers have an interest in historical warfare, and particularly World War II and World War One. And yeah, that does fit the Hedgehog kind of launch mechanism. But
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's really
I've
cool.
Just found
actually.
that. That's just been totally.
Yeah,
that's
borrowed.
not even been borrowed. That's just been totally. Yeah, we'll have that.
But why not? Because I tell you what, I'd never really heard
it
of
works.
This until now, and that's kind of cool.
No, I hadn't. I looked at it this morning, and because I've just bought the Porphyrion, it looks like the rocket launcher on the back of the Porphyrion.
It does a little bit.
To me, obviously the hatch is different, but the mounting of the actual munitions in there looked similar. So that's what I got from it. But now that I've seen that Navy Hedgehog,
there's no doubt.
I'm going to be reading up about them. I will be emailing into Al Murray's We Have Ways of Making You Talk podcast and saying I want to know how these worked. Get chatting.
Sure, that's cool. So yeah, we have the Legion Arquitect Bombard, £95, which, bearing in mind it is that size, seems about right.
It's comparable to a Mark IIB Land Raider, isn't it?
Exactly. So you can understand that price. So some people were questioning the price, but yeah, that's fair enough. 10 on the armour. You know, it's not a heavy armoured vehicle, but you're not
going to park it in the middle or somewhere. But
it does have 4 hull points.
It's also got heavy. It's got tank heavy.
Oh yes.
In its rules.
Well, so yeah, let's get on. Yeah, park that for a second. So it's a heavy support choice. Mm-hmm. You can have units of 1 to 3, which is just a bit mental. You've got the rocket system, the 2 sponsor mounted heavy bolt with smoke launchers, searchlight auxiliary drive. So it automatically comes with an auxiliary drive. That's pretty cool, and may well be needed. It can change its heavy bolters for autocannons for 10 points. That's both of them. That's pretty cool. It can have a combi weapon, a havoc launcher, twin link bolter, spintle mount. It can have armored ceramite and extra armor. All vehicles must do that if you do that.
And
that's
can't have a dozer blade, but it does have the auxiliary drive.
Can't. So you could, yeah. So, I mean, you could put one on for looks. There's no problem with that.
Nope.
And then you get the spicular rocket system. So 24-inch range is interesting, but they don't look the most aerodynamic of
no, they're
missiles.
certainly not intercontinental.
No, so that's cool. I'm down with that. range is restrictive, but hey ho, whatever. Strength 7 AP3. When you look at stat lines, that's pretty damn good. If that were to go to strength 8, then you could understand with these rules why it doesn't, I think.
Yes.
Ordnance, blast, rocket salvo, sunder, wrecker. So sunder is pretty good. Wrecker, yeah, it's cool.
Sunder and ordnance
is pretty nice. But we'll move on to, so when firing the spicular rocket system, choose a target point within range. Note that the target point does not have to be on a model's base. So this is the first non-Titan weapon, I think, where you can choose a point on the battlefield and place a blast marker of one of the follow sizes, 5 or 7 inches. Once placed, scatter the blast template as normal. So if you roll a hit, it stays where it is. Each unit under the template's final position suffers a number of hits based on the template size as shown on the table below. We'll get to that in a second. If a 7-inch template is used and a 6 is rolled on the D6, then the weapon has exhausted its ammunition and may no longer be fired. So that's on the D6. So that's because it's D6 plus 4. Okay, so 5-inch template, every unit hit will suffer 5 hits. 7-inch template, every unit hit will suffer D6 plus 4 hits. So it doesn't matter how many models are under the template.
They just take the hits.
They take the hits. This means it's worse for firing it than a Vindicator. So I saw some people comparing it to a Vindicator. It's worse than a Vindicator if someone's deep strikes and not run. Plus it's better than a Vindicator if everything's really spread out, but you could hit 3 units. One model of 3 units.
It does also stop people saying, right, well, I've been hit by this blast, my sergeant is going to dive in front of every piece of flying shrapnel on his 2-up artificer armor save.
Well, no, it doesn't.
Oh, you say I would take that.
No. So it's not barrage. So the shot has still come from the vehicle. So you still follow the line of sight rules. So the front model will take the first hit until he's dead, then the second model, then the third model, and that it doesn't counteract any. There's nothing in there which counteracts the wound allocation kind of aspect of what we're doing. So in terms of the current rules as they stand, if your sergeant's at the front with a 2-up armor save, he can potentially tank all 10 hits from a strength 7 template, 7-inch template. Sorry. Cool. We're used to that. That's a current problem in the game, or issue in the game, shall we say, that you have to play around. That's fine. It does a handful of things in that. Yes, you could still have the kind of discussion over where, is that model under there or not? But the chances are that that's going to be less of an issue because it's not individual models you're counting. You're counting one model from any unit or touching a tank or what have you. So you're not worried about, is that 5 or 6 models from that unit? Is one model touched by this? Yes, it is. That unit's done. So it has the ability to speed that up, cause less issues in that front. Now, someone on Facebook was like, well, that's not a problem because we just dice it and whatever. And that's cool, but the chances are you'll have to dice it less. So you speed things up. The chances are that if your opponent does disagree, and honestly, sometimes there are honest disagreements. No one's trying to cheat, but they think, no, I'm right. And there's no one wrong in that respect, but it stops that becoming that becomes less of an issue or less of an opportunity to be an issue. You also have potentially that it's less of an issue if you have a discussion over scattered direction, which can happen quite a lot. I've got a friend who never ever scatters in the right direction. Sometimes he's up to like 15, 20 degrees off. And I'm like, how can you read that wrong? But it's just something in his brain, maybe. And sometimes I've done it because you're at an angle to the dice or whatever as well. It does happen. But if you're still obviously hitting one model in that unit, it doesn't matter that you would have hit 3 more or 3 less if you're still hitting one. So all of that works quite well in terms of as we said, if I'm playing against it, I don't have to worry if one squad is grouped up. I don't have to worry about spreading them out individually 2 inches from each other.
Yeah, I mean, even at the 7-inch template, D6 plus 4, that
Mm-hmm.
could potentially be more forgiving than you get currently out of a Scorpius Whirlwind.
Absolutely, but it's more the fact that I just don't even have to worry about thinking about it. What I
Yeah.
might have to do is worry about my gaps between units, but that's easier to measure the furthest two models or the closest two models, and then
Yeah.
everything else just goes further away from that. So it has advantages in that respect, in terms of playing the game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It has some interesting aspects in terms of aiming at a piece of ground. It makes Wrecker better, because you don't necessarily have to target something, blah, 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 blah. And then in terms of actual game rules, Strength 7's good, AP3 is good.
Yeah, but you're still getting feel no pain, and you're not getting doubled out.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're getting a say. To be honest, I think most people will just go for Strength 7 every time. Sorry, the 7-inch template every time. There might be times when it's, I can only hit one unit and a 5-inch template in the centre is going to hit it anyway. And 5 hits is all I need. But stuff that.
I can't see it being very popular with Custodes players with the automatic number of hits on the unit, regardless of how many models underneath, with their increased unit coherency. Because you clip one, all of a sudden you're getting D6 plus 4.
But it's only AP3.
Strength. It's only AP3, but it's strength 7. You're still wounding on 2, so you're forcing those saves.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Yep, you're absolutely right in terms of that. But also, if they have the Aria Shrikes, I think it is, where things can scatter more, there's more of a chance that it misses anyway. So, yeah, cool. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that if this one thing's a little bit better against Custodes than otherwise it would be. Whatever, that's fine.
Your Flyboys aren't going to like it.
No, but then they don't like a lot of stuff. But cool, if you want to fire this at 3 Flyboys, that's fine. You have to do it fairly quickly anyway before they come and kill you, because if they get into you, they will kill you with a rear armour of 10 and strength 7 spears on the 7
I was going to say that.
Yeah, at AP2. Yeah, so...
Yeah, they'll do a number on it.
Yeah.
I want to know what tank heavy means.
Yep. That's old. Like, they used to have heavy tanks. Also, this gun is good. Like, strength 7 with Sunder and Ordnance means you've got a chance of hurting some tanks.
Anything that's not armor 14.
Yeah. So, it's maybe not your go-to, but you can still do it.
No, if you think you've got 7-inch template, if someone's bottlenecked in, you could hit 4 predators.
Yeah, exactly.
Say with that template, and be doing 9 strength 7 ordnance sunder hits on each one.
Yeah, good for squadrons, isn't it? It means if you're, because this is like, that weapon profile is great for killing infantry, but it means if you come up against armor breakthrough and you are going first, you can roll it up the table and launch a load of shots into someone and cause some problems.
Yeah, before they have a chance to spread out, like Dreadnought Talons, Armiger / Moirax Talons.
Yeah, and it's 140 points per model.
It's not bad.
Plus 10 if you want the autocannons, which I don't think is necessarily a bad shout. 150 points.
Armoured Ceramite is going to take you to 170 then.
Is it needed on an armoured 12 vehicle where a lot of stuff's going to go through anyway?
Well, probably not.
But you are going to be in range of Melter easier.
I still wake up in a cold sweat thinking about Dynat and Melter Seekers because it's so original.
Sure.
So Armoured Ceramite's always a...
Yeah, I mean, but it's an option there. But then you're going to 170. It's still not over the top for what you're getting. Do I think it's the greatest vehicle that's ever graced the game? No. But I think it's got I think it's got a place. Bearing in mind that weapon, I like it. I like the rules for it. I like they're a bit funky and different. I like the fact that it's a 12-12-10 heavy vehicle with a close range gun. There are some questions on the choose a target within range and place a blast marker. Do you need line of sight? It doesn't suggest you do, but doesn't say you overwrite the rules. Mm-hmm. So maybe that just needs clearing up. It feels like it's an indirect fire weapon, but doesn't have the barrage rule.
Nope.
So do they just give it the barrage rule? Or do they make that wording say, you don't need line of sight to that point. Which
Barrage could be quite horrible when all of a sudden you're looking at 9 of them in an iron fire list.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's why
9 7-inch templates that aren't scattering with fearless troops driving around in between them.
That's why and that's why I say, like that. That's why there's 2 ways of doing that. That just needs to be kind of. I think that a decision needs to be made there just to clarify that. So I don't think it sets the world alight. It's a big piece of kit. £95 for 140 points.
That's expensive.
Yeah. Would I take them in units of 3? Heavy support is also probably its biggest. The thing that makes it hardest to take is it's a heavy support choice.
Yeah.
That is killing infantry really easily. Well, lots of things kill infantry really easily. Do you need to use another heavy support choice for doing that?
I think it as a narrative, or to use a horrible phrase, a fluff-based choice. I think it's fantastic.
I still think it's cool anyway.
It's something different. It's not a Predator. We've all seen Predators for nearly 3 decades now. It's something. Full. Oh,
so here's
have you stood on something or thought of something?
No, thought of something. So I just remembered that someone else said you pick a point on the table, so you technically don't target anything. So technically, javelins etc. cannot jink because they haven't been targeted. Because my reply to that was, oh no, javelins have been nerfed into the ground. But I don't mind if something makes javelins, if they're really bad against one matchup. But what does that mean when you've got a squadron of them? Because, there's no targeting restrictions in that respect.
No.
So, again...
Do you split the hits amongst the squadron, or do you do the same number of hits to every vehicle in the squadron?
No, I mean when you're choosing targets to fire at as a squadron. You can have 3 of these.
Oh, as in so you don't all pick the same target point?
No, because you're not... Because you're
not picking a target.
Because you're not picking a target. You have to target the same thing. If I'm correct with squadrons, I don't use squadrons very often. Can you just? Well, I'm just picking 3 points on the table.
To the best, they inadvertently got split fire.
Essentially, yes. Have they? Is that such a bad thing? I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But that's something that could potentially cause an issue in that because of that. But yeah, so
your opponent's going to want to know how you're going to play that if you've got squadrons of them.
Yeah, I mean, squadrons of them is like... I just think for the points, bearing in mind it's a heavy support choice, a squadron of 3 could be really cool. Like, it could go down really quickly.
There's plenty of people out there with squadrons of laser vindicators and whatnot. I mean, admittedly, they're probably almost half the price financially.
Yeah, that's the biggest hurdle. But
something about this community, we tend to find ways of not letting that stop us.
Could you imagine, though, just if you do aim at roughly the same point of 3d6 plus 12 hits with this gun on, a 20-man squad of whatever, like it's a lot of damage.
That's horrific.
But you're paying a decent amount of points for it as well. But I think it's really cool. I think there's some cool stuff going on here. If we look beyond the Arquita Bombard itself as a toy in Age of Sigmar, what we have
in Age of Sigmar,
in Age of Darkness, first edition, then we have a tank with the heavy type, as you pointed out, something like a Malkador, like under the old heavy rules, would probably benefit from.
Yes.
Right. So I'm not saying we're using the old heavy rules. I'm suggesting there could
that
be
might have just still been on the old PDF that they filled in for it.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, if we did have heavy tanks, we don't necessarily have to go to that old heavy type. It could be new rules. But the distinction between heavy tanks, super heavy tanks, and tanks becoming a thing would help under the current system. We also have... am
I going to have to look up something else on the internet now?
This is the only blast template weapon I know that doesn't work like every other blast template weapon.
No.
So everything we have, like some stuff, Phosphex has blast rule but stays on the table, but that's just an extension of the blast rules. It acts like a blast. We have, and Creeping Death is a modification of a normal blast template rule. This is a fundamental different use of the blast template, which has the potential, I think, to make the game faster.
If you were rocking squadrons on, it certainly would.
Yeah, faster because because your enemy doesn't have to worry about spreading out, as we said, quite as much, but still has to worry about it a little bit. Simpler because it's a case of, is that unit hit or not?
Yeah,
and just seems more straightforward as well. Like
it's a super easy mechanic.
So. And it seems to me, because some people have said, what's this? It almost seems like a happy medium between 8th edition and 7th edition, where in 8th edition, this gun would be D6 plus whatever hits. That would just be it. You roll to hit, D6 plus whatever hits, without the blast template being involved. We know that there's elements of the community who are vehemently opposed to getting rid of templates at all. So, like, for them, this still works, but actually works a little bit like a 40k weapon. And then on the other side, you still get templates, but they work differently, like the other way. So it fits in both camps a little bit.
Is there anything else in the game that does a predetermined or random number of hits? Isn't there something about charging flamers that's a little bit similar?
They're D3. D3 automatic hits.
But it's the same kind of concept that if you're touched by a template, you get random number of hits.
Yeah, that's something that's been used within the rule system we have, because that rule system's been used for 40k before. So that doesn't break the rule system. I try and even think of back in 40k if there have been stuff where if the template touches, but that's old. Like, this feels different. So I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit, but this does feel different from what we're doing. The D6 plus 4, the random plus a solid, or even just a random number of hits, seems to fit within the system we have, like, logically, that you could have a random number of hits. I'm trying to think just off the top of my head. I'm sure I'm missing something really obvious. But that doesn't seem to break the system, like, or change the system in the same way that this fundamentally changes the way a blast template works. Not a huge amount, but enough to make a big difference. So my wonder is this a first trial of a potential
update for version 1.5 or version 2?
Yeah, or Age of Darkness 2nd edition.
Yeah.
Like, and that might be a long way down the line, right? But I immediately read this rule and went, that seems like a modernised way of utilising blast templates.
Yep, I'll tell you now, they won't do it to the Glaives template, because that would make it horrific.
No, absolutely. And it won't work individually, but if you went to a different edition, then actually you think other things would get changed as well. So that doesn't bother me at all.
And you can always have exceptions to the rule anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. And in fact, you can have they have different terminology between blast templates and is that a beam, isn't it? So a beam,
that's a beam.
It's a beam, so that could work differently anyway. But I look at the heavy aspect. I look at that, and I wonder here if we just start to see that there's potential, and even if there isn't, this shows me a good way of, if I was, because I'm not a rules writer by any stretch of the imagination, but I look at that way of using blast templates and I'm like, it makes sense moving forwards. It might need other changes, but it's an example of the way that they can do a version, a second edition, and keep aspects of the game we love, but modernise them and not go as far as 8th edition. And I know once Andy Hoare, I've said it on here before, Andy Hoare picked me up in the way I was talking about when the changes happened, and I said that I was reporting what I was told, that it was, Heresy was, they were keeping it this way and blah, blah, blah. And he said, actually, Alan was working on making a Heresy 8th edition rule set, but with all the workload they had at the time of updating 40k rules and everything else, and they were coming up to some problems that they needed more time and effort to be able to get round, if they could get around them, but they didn't even have the time to try. So they had to make a decision, and their decision was, right, cool, we've got a game system, we'll make some small tweaks to it, and Age of Darkness first edition was made. They were looking at ways. Now, and Andy said to me at that point, he said, what this does, we've got a cool game system, that's cool. We can look at other game systems, we can look at 40k, even Age of Sigmar, we can see what works. And you never know when a new edition of a game comes out, because there always will be a new edition down the line. We can see what works for all those game systems, and we can pick, and we can
pick the bits we like,
or just be influenced by the things we like. It doesn't even have to be the same.
Yeah.
But, and that way you've got potential for this game to stay in an Age of Darkness rule set that we know currently. You've got potential for it to go all the way through to 40k style rule set, and you've got everything in between and things slightly off there as well. And I'm not saying we're going all the way to 40k, and I'm not saying we're not moving anywhere, and I'm not saying we won't diverge off down some chasm and spend 18 hours on a side quest. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. But there is, again, on here, I think there's a problem with the way super heavy vehicles work. I think I think wound allocation is something that really needs to be looked at. And there are a few other things as well that I would definitely change, but I don't know how I'd change them. So I'm not.
Yeah, and there's always going to be something. The things that might be an issue for you might not be an issue for somebody else.
Yeah.
The things that you would change, other people would think are perfect. It's just the nature of.
Yeah, it's opinions. From being an event organizer, and from playing a lot of different games, although of the same style, to be fair. It's been a while since I played anything that's wildly out there, although I have done in the past. And maybe not being the best gamer in the world, but being competent. I feel that super heavies don't work within our game system that well, and create kind of negative game experiences one way or the other quite a lot of the time, unless you're playing a specific scenario that uses them. I think wound allocation slows the game down. And again causes a negative play experience in terms of you can do it's wound allocation combined with lookout sirs combined with a few other rules that break.
Then you mix that up with different initiative steps and then different weapon skills in the same combat, and it can take you half an hour to work out one combat. And
different special rules, and some that carry over from character to squad, and some that don't. Some that carry from squad to character, and some don't. And all of that, we've got essentially 7th edition 40k was built off the back of 6th edition 40k, which was built off the back of 5th edition 40k. And the game hasn't changed a huge amount since 3rd. Like, it's still recognisable since 3rd. And even then, it's still recognisable since, 2nd. But, changed a lot into 3rd. And we've come through all of that. We're now playing a different game with a different design methodology that was originally designed for 5th and then got pushed into 6th. And now we're in our 8th, we're in Age of Darkness 1st edition, which, is a different version of 8th if you look at it branching that way. So, like, when you look at it that way, it's understandable that there are things that are clunky, that don't necessarily gel that well. And that's cool, that's fine. The game's still fun. I still have lots of fun with it. My mind begins to imagine how much more fun we could have. I don't care whether you call the kind of the hit points on a tank. I don't care whether you call them hull points or wounds. That doesn't bother me too much. I think by the nature of the style of game we play, they should be hull points or whatever.
Yeah, structure points.
Structure points. The old school version.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff. a degradation of tanks. We used to have it. So if people are worried, 8th edition degradation, like super heavies used to degrade. They used to get slower when they took half wounds, or you knocked tanks.
Don't even go as far back as 2nd edition when you needed a moon calendar and a degree in advanced mathematics to work out vehicle damage.
Unless they had a Harlequin's kiss and they just killed everyone inside the vehicle and left it perfectly fine. Which was beautiful.
That was the coolest result in the entire game, admittedly. Or the same with the shock attack gun. Everything's dead inside. The vehicle just stops.
Yeah, perfect. But yeah, we had that. We had you used to be able to shoot weapons off super heavies, and slowly they would become less effective, so that you felt like you were achieving something every time you got through the armor. And I think that's good. I think the fact that you can. I think sometimes you can be put off by the fact I've done 8 hull points to that and it's still working exactly the same as it was. Like, what was the point? You know, the constant kind of, I'm getting somewhere. Even if it's like, it's one heavy bolter down. Result, like, that's 3 less shots. Good. You know, it was the worst result I could have got, but I actually still did something with it. You know, that kind of thing. And I didn't mind that I shot its main weapon and he rolled a 4 up and saved it because it's a primary weapon. I had a chance. You know, that kind of thing. I think that's good. I think...
Or he blessed auto simulacra at its last hull point in turn 5. You know, give them degradation, but give them blessed auto simulacra because there will be a tech priest inside.
Do something. Like, I'm not even saying that those are the answers, but something where you feel... and it's all about avoiding negative game experiences for me. I think you can get away with making a lot of mistakes if it's fun. Sometimes it's not fun when that, whatever it is, that knight, that mastodon, that whatever trumps across the table, just taking you apart, and you can't do anything about it. Yeah.
But on the other side, I'm going to give you an example from Blood and Glory last year. I brought me Solar with 3 Malcadors post FAQ. It's eyebrows twitching even thinking about it. One game, I lost 2 Valdor tank hunters to the first shot of the game. I set them up and I put them away. Yeah. Now, that's, again, I'm going to be very northern here. That's 160 quid's worth of model.
You didn't get to use,
That I had 2 Valdors for 6 games. I think I did 3 shots all weekend. And it's like, that's worth 160 quid and 3 weeks painting then, innit? And then, conversely, the one game that I won of the weekend, I actually got to shoot my Malcador Infernus. I only got to shoot it 1 game. Even then I only got to shoot it twice, I think. And I got a perfect shot on a unit of Marines playing Justin Hill. And I was like, I didn't actually enjoy that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I just put this giant bin bag of a template over your army, and you take it off. Well, that's no fun.
And you wouldn't mind if it took 3/4 of the army shooting to destroy one. You wouldn't mind that you didn't get to use it because you can see the value of having it, and you're like, it's achieving something even in its death, and so again you avoid that negative game experience of I've put this model down, I've taken it off the table. Like it doesn't have to be that model runs forward and does all this. That's not what it means. But it's that I didn't get to use my model. I didn't. Yeah. I felt like I achieved nothing in this whole phase against you again. It's that kind of thing. So I'm wary because I know that I got kind of caught up in, hold on, what are we looking at here? And we might not be looking at anything, but there's a hope in me that this is a sign of a slightly different style of game. Now, I'm definitely not saying this is happening tomorrow, or anything like that. We have a book coming out with the Dark Angels in. There's going to be a gap before we get any releases, I'm sure, after that. I don't even think the Dark Angels is going to be for a few months yet. Book 9 Thramas, I think we're a few months off that. But what we do have, if we do have a new rule set, if we have a good time to do it after that, and I don't think it needs to be hugely different. I think I think if we have a rule set where, all the armor values are fine for the new rule set, but we've changed certain rules, we've changed Sunder, we've changed this to make it slightly different to achieve different results, then cool, you can keep that. If we don't have to change the profile of the average Marine, we don't have to change a lot of other things, but actually we can change a few rules here. We can change, as you say, a degradation, wound allocation, of cover, maybe. I don't know, of the way flyers work. Because again, there's another potential all or nothing rule set of flyers. Like, flying transports are so cool, but how many times do they just never turn up in enough time to affect the game?
Yeah.
Or what have you? Or deep strike. The amount of times I've seen people take deep strike armies and they deep strike and they get shot off the table. Next game they deep strike, the enemy can't shoot them off the table, they overrun their enemy. And it's a 2-turn game.
Yeah.
Because deep striking has a tendency to lean towards that style of game. It doesn't always, but it has a tendency to do that. So there are lots of things that could potentially be done, and I'm not going to say which are the best way to do things. I know aspects of this game that I think could be improved, as I say, without necessarily knowing, and I hate to be, because I get fed up when people are always bringing the problem and never bringing an answer. But I feel like I have enough I would have the ability to talk to a rules writer and say, these are my issues with the game, and here are my reasons they are issues. I don't know how to solve them because I'm not of that mindset. But
you are.
I believe if you could, what I could probably give is a rough kind of, as I said with vehicles. My problem with vehicles is this. I believe if I felt that I was getting something out of shooting it with my las cannon, if I got through the armour, maybe not even every time I got through, but enough times, then that would make that problem disappear for me.
Yeah.
And then leave it up to the people who are paid money to design rules to design the rules. So, yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
And that's
I think one thing that would be nice to see after Crusade, it wouldn't surprise me if we get a new round. If we did get a new round of red books.
Yeah, at some point. I don't mind if that's a little bit afterwards,
because all the legions will be done
Yeah.
after book 9.
Yeah, and if they
let's have a loyalist book, a traitor book.
Yeah.
Don't ask where you put the Alpha Legion.
Oh, don't start with the obvious jokes.
And then obviously, you put the custodies in, decide on a points value for them, put them in, put the demons in, and then you can update your red rule book, put some new missions in, perhaps. I know that's something that lots of people are constantly clamouring for.
Yeah, I've banged on about it enough as well. There's lots of cool stuff. And maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, and maybe we should slap ourselves on the wrist.
Wish listing.
Yeah, a little bit, but there's a basis for it here that we haven't seen before. I don't think. I think there's a couple of clues there. They might be red herrings, but they might well not be. I think it's exciting.
I think it's exciting, even if there wasn't anything that you could postulate over from a rules perspective. The fact we've had like 3 tanks in 3 weeks.
Yep, and actually,
and we've had the Dawnbreakers and stuff have come out. The Dark Angel stuff's been previewed. You've got content coming out on Warhammer Community. Which how many years? And you do measure it in years. Did Warhammer Community effectively seem to think that Heresy didn't exist?
Oh, absolutely. I've banged on about it enough. But it's changed now, and we move forwards, and
it's fantastic.
We make the most of it. And I was going to say, even if we don't get a brand new rule set, what this shows is they're looking at different ways of utilising the rule set we have. Mm-hmm. So even if that is all we get, in inverted commas, from this, then that's a positive because it's advancing our game.
Yeah, it's something we're never going to be. The Heresy community is never going to be in the situation that 40k is in, I don't think, or I can't foresee it.
No, it never will.
That we get like a 6-monthly, Praetor's Handbook or whatever, where everything gets rebalanced every 6 months.
It's not a tournament game, and it doesn't have enough releases to warrant it. So
exactly.
Those two things are why that happens. But if we get, say if we don't get a new rule set soon, but we get new ways of playing within our rule set, then that refreshes things. So that is a bonus. That is good. If that is all we get, then that is a positive. So I'm eagerly looking forwards to see what else comes with Thramas, and then beyond that, like ways they may look at doing different things. Like there's I mean, they could potentially change. I don't know if they would do it that way. Actually, I think major rules changes probably would come with a new rule set, because I was thinking of like the psychic phase. In my opinion, could be massively overhauled and made a lot smoother. I think talk about clunky phases, and bearing in mind that only a couple of armies really make a lot of it. That it could be simplified and smoothed out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, it's just all exciting stuff. It's new stuff for people who've been into the heresy since it dropped in 2012. They don't have these Arquitters. They might have everything else. They don't have these. It's stuff that someone who's walked into the hobby this week has gone, oh, that's quite a cool tank, and someone who's been into it since Horus Rising dropped in 2005 or 2006, whatever it was, and go, that's a cool tank. They might both have put an order in on the same day.
Absolutely. So yeah, I've heard reassuring things. We kind of all have, to be honest, from Warhammer community and other places, that this year we're going to get some cool stuff. And I mean,
and in 2 years, everybody's going to be playing Heresy.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about that. I think that's fair enough. Make the bold statement. I don't mind that.
Make the statement, but they should know the community will hold them to it.
Yeah, that is the problem, isn't it? I think you'll find you said on this day.
Yeah, just before I rolled a 5.
Yes, exactly. But we're getting releases. Like so far, they're following up on what they've said. So cool.
Yeah. People are going to complain when we don't get releases, and people are going to complain when we do get releases, because they're not the releases they want, but they can't tell us what they do want.
Well, I mean, we all do it to a point. We're all disappointed when we don't get the thing we want. We just don't necessarily need to voice them all the time. That's fine. That's cool. Whatever. As I say, I try not to kind of focus on that aspect of it, because there's so much cool stuff to focus on at the moment. This is the 2020, the resurgence of Heresy. It's going to be ace. It is going to be ace.
I want to see these things on the table.
I want to see units. I want to see like 3 units of 3 of them, just for fun. Whoever's just mad.
Nine of them parked behind some Aegis defense lines.
Yeah. Maybe Graham will do it. Maybe
if anybody's going to do it, well, it depends. Depends
if he's into them or not. If he decides,
no, it just depends if he's allowed into it. That's what it's going to be.
Well, he's got a big birthday coming up, hasn't he?
Well, that's true.
He's extremely old. We found out.
But he shares a birthday with somebody else in the heresy community, doesn't he?
Yeah, but that person is nowhere near as old as him, so that's fine.
Well, not many people are as old as him.
True. I'm amazed that he can paint so well with those shaky hands like that.
And it must be cataract surgery.
Yeah, something like that.
John Blanche has had it, so I
think this conversation has probably shown that we probably should take a break. So wonderful. We'll hit the music. Thanks, Rob.
No worries.
Well, we have one gorgeous Pete joining me now. Hi, Pete.
Hey, Greg. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, all good, thanks.
Excellent. You've been on the show before a long time ago, but we're here to talk about something different from running events. First off, are they coming back? Are you looking to bring some more events out?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all in the pipeline. Just trying to find the time to sit down and plan things, as I'm sure you know what that's like.
Big time. Yeah. So watch this space on that front. But one of the things that is taking up some of your time, at least, is a new venture. Should we call it?
Yeah, it's fair to say. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to talk us through what is Geek Shield?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So essentially, some of you who do know me will know that I work within financial services as like an insurance advisor and will writer. So all the really fun things, nothing to do with hobby at all. But we've created a a platform ultimately to reward hobbyists essentially with hobby vouchers for making their arrangements for their insurances with us. So pretty much like a normal broker service. I don't know if obviously I think Greg, you've obviously gone through something like that yourself, as we've discussed previously.
Yeah.
So compare all the options for you and ultimately come back with the best one. And then you get, hobby vouchers for hobby stores and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Spend as and when you want to.
It's like when you're looking for your car insurance, you might go to a confused.com or whatever. A similar process, but with possibly a little bit more fine tuning, getting a bit more of a personal touch, because of course, it's slightly less straightforward than just getting a car insured.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So the main, sorry,
carry on.
I was just going to say the main types of the insurance, obviously, is life insurance and income protection. So if you're too ill to work and all that sort of stuff, and critical illness cover. So as you say, they're a bit more detailed, I guess, than more of your generic insurances, right?
Yeah,
and the whole thing behind it is to try and build a community around that rewards them, and at least we feel like we're getting something back as a community for putting that money that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's going to be people listening to this who are like, okay, whatever, I'm all sorted. I've been on the ball with this for a while, but there's going to be people here as well who haven't necessarily had to think about anything like that, or haven't just haven't because of whatever reason. I know certainly. So if you've listened for a while, you'll know I was ill start of the year, and thank God it was. I was fine. It took some recovering, but it could have gone very easily gone the other way. If I'd been on holiday for a few more days and held off, then I could not have made it, actually, when you start to think about it like that. And nothing to get too morose or too philosophical about these things, but I think it was 2 days after, when I was starting to feel better, after they went in to try and remove my gallbladder, the missus came up and I was like, girl, we need to write some wills, because there's nothing untoward, and I'm absolutely sure that if something happened to me, everything would run fairly smoothly, but you never know what happens if something happens, no matter what that is. All of a sudden people might change the way they act, or you might not realise that actually, because you haven't done something, my wife's not entitled to certain things, and even there's lots of stuff that just could be a problem. That the last thing you need if you've lost someone is to have problems around that. And the other thing on top of that was life insurance. So, if something happens to me, I've now got a child on the way. Actually, leaving my wife and a kid with just her salary and being a single parent and everything else like that, I felt like both her and I need to look at what do we do if the worst happens. And it's not a pleasant thing to talk about, but actually it's quite healthy. And we went up for a 2-for-1 burger night in the local pub, and we started to discuss all those things that actually probably is a good idea to chat about some of this, just in case. Fingers crossed we never need any of it. But yeah, we've got a nice house, and it would be a shame, if something happened that we lose it for whatever reason. If we don't have to.
Absolutely. And it's the conversations that people never want to have, right? But they're not going to try and beat around the bush. It's the most miserable topic in the world. The way. Well, to give you some examples, I won't name names, obviously, but so far we've had 7. Doesn't sound like a lot, and I know it isn't, but there's been 7 clients so far, friends or hobbyists or whatever you want to call them, a bit of both really, from person to person. And all of them have, a few of them needed new policies arranged, if that makes sense. So didn't have anything at all previously. The others all had something previously, and all of the ones that had something previously, their arrangements now are far, far better as well. And you'd be surprised that the way things are arranged can make a big difference as well. So, it's one of those things. If you're paying out for it, then it makes sense to pay out essentially the same or less in a lot of circumstances and get the voucher rewards as well. And at least that's the idea behind things, is to keep trying to grow a miniature community where I think I explained to you, Greg, previously, but for every 10 clients, essentially, there'll be additional vouchers paid back into the community as like a prize draw. So sort of like a community fund that way as well. So
sure, yeah. So should we probably start with, because there might be people listening to this who don't really know, so life insurance is one of those things that I say you don't think about it until I've never thought about life insurance in terms of how it works until I actually had to think, do I need life insurance? And it's not just life insurance, is it? As you said, there's other products as well. But so we're talking about life insurance as the most kind of obvious way it's done is a lump of money paid out if the worst happens.
Yeah, simply that. Yeah, exactly that. So you'd usually cover yourself for so many years, and then that lump sum that you think you need would pay out on death, essentially. A lot of people have it to cover a mortgage, or something like that, or cover the upbringing of a child, that sort of side of things. Yes, life insurance is quite a straightforward one, really. Critical illness cover, which some people may have heard of, is quite a bit different, really. It'll pay out on the diagnosis of a serious illness, like regardless of if that person dies or not, essentially. So if someone, had a heart attack or cancer in a lot of cases, something really quite nasty and horrible, but goes on and lives, regardless if they go on and live, but the payout happens on the diagnosis typically. And again, you might have that to cover your wages for a while. Or again, some people will even have that to cover a mortgage repayment. It really depends on what people would like it for.
Yeah, absolutely.
For some maybe overseas treatment or private treatment, whatever they want at that point. And then the other big one, really probably the biggest I imagine, is income protection. And that's simply to cover your income on a monthly basis if you can't work for whatever reason. So like the scenario where obviously what happened with you, Greg, did you have any time off work and stuff? Or
luckily it was all paid.
Good.
Yeah, one of the few jobs I've ever had where I get a full sickness package. Made the most of it.
Yeah, it's again not nice, but the majority of jobs are just statutory sick pay, right? Which is like £90 I think £95 a week, something like that, in around there. Which for anyone who's got dependents or a home or something like that, it's not really going to cut it, I guess, in a lot of cases. So yeah, that's the three main types that we deal with. And
these are all about taking stress away from, either making sure you're financially, like, you don't have that issue, that worry, that actual physical kind of disruption as well of having to maybe force yourself to work if you're ill. But it's about making life easier for, if not for you, then whoever you've left behind, but actually those other two, for you potentially as well. And, it's one of those things when you said, when we chatted about getting you on, it's like, well, it's a heresy show, but actually it affects people. And I think it's a valuable thing to talk about. I don't mind talking about it on the show. Obviously, some people might skip this bit. Fine, crack on.
Perfectly understandable. Yeah. And
but also, it's something like, as you said, income protection. The one thing that they've so in economic downturns, they found that hobby spending is one of the few things that doesn't go down the rate of others. In fact, sometimes it raises, because in those tough times, that's when you need your hobbies the most.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so, if something was to happen, actually, we had the models for soldiers, or whatever it's called, models for heroes, guys come on. In the darkest moments, sometimes it's hobby that actually brings people out of that. So, it's not just about maybe protecting your wealth. It's all the mental health aspects that come with that. You not only might you be dealing with, say, cancer. Let's use that as an example. You might not only be dealing with all the rubbish that comes with being told you've got cancer, but then having a financial impact on top of that as well. So it's a slightly wider scope than sometimes people think.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point to mention. Like, I think a lot of people think, well, I don't have a mortgage, or why do I need any of this? As you just said, it's, your financial situation ultimately will manage the majority of what you can and cannot do, right? And for the family and stuff as well. And as you say, if you're needing to spend more time at home and recovering from whatever it is, you're more likely going to want to be just doing your hobbies, aren't you? And then other things, and still ultimately money coming in for, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I haven't seen. I'm not an expert in this by any stretch of the imagination, but I've seen people who's had something affect their life, and then it's that afterwards it was not being able to enjoy their life. It wasn't actually the initial, that they had enough stress with the initial thing, but the real burden on them was being stuck in without having an outlet, without having anything like that. And we're in a hobby which is, very social, and or has the ability to be very social, certainly. And maybe it is a case of being able to go out. Like you might not be able to afford to get out to play as much, and that I certainly know that if I go X amount of period of time without seeing my gaming friends, actually it does start to affect you. So it's all that aspect into it, and this is you are a gamer. This is your industry, and you thought, well, obviously there's more than one reason to be doing this, but you've kind of looked at something that would be attractive to geeks, to gamers.
Yeah, exactly. So should we talk about like the reward amounts and the other side of the rewards and how they work?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. So Greg's quite right. It's if you so I work for a broker essentially, where if you visit us as a regular client, you'd get exactly the same level of service and quality of service. Your main differences here is I'm able to release vouchers essentially for referrals to a certain extent, which would be and bringing my own business in to a certain extent, if that makes sense. And the way that looks like with the Geek Shield side of things is £100 of vouchers, which ideally I think we're going to try and push down for like Element or someone like that. Moving forward to have it as one, but that's still to be decided, which is, a real sizable amount essentially.
Yeah.
I think so anyway. And then, as I said, each 10 clients will have enough essentially then to have another two £25 prize draws for the community and that sort of stuff, and trying to build this pot which will constantly pay out and constantly give more back to the community and the people within that as time ticks by. And it might, obviously, as we've said, this segment won't be for everyone for sure, but if it's something that people are already paying out for or have a need for, they might have a need for it in a year, 10 years down the line, or however long it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But as and when it is, it's something worth considering because you'll get more back for it this way, essentially.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. If you're considering any sort of insurance in this manner, then why not consider yourself, who so you've been in the industry, we've already got some on your Facebook page. You've also already got some reviews, some kind of people who've used you and recommend it. I've had you. We haven't bit the bullet yet. My wife needs to read some documents, bless her. But we've already chatted about potential of what can be done, bearing in mind our situation. Because again, these are all fundamentally individual projects. They can't, they have to be.
Very much so. Yeah.
And I know you, so I trust you. Obviously, other people might not, but when I look at
I think that's that's the hardest thing. Is it's very hard to come across sincerely when talking around insurance. If you don't know that person at all, it can seem very much like a sales sharky kind of thing, I guess, right?
Yeah, and there's a reputation.
We've met before a number of times. Yeah, the reputation is huge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But
which hopefully the fact for what we've what I've done previously and continue to do with 30k Frontier and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully, shine some light on my efforts towards building community stuff, if anything. And yeah, it's that's the thing which we want to. It's good to have the opportunity to speak here to hopefully get that across to some more people as well.
Yeah, and even if I didn't know you personally, we're not the best buddies. We don't talk every week or anything like that. But
well, thanks. Yeah,
but we know each other. We get on. We're friends. But also, even if without that, I would look at the people I know that you spend time with, and these are how we value and trust people. You're good friends with Mullins and the Sons of Heresy guys. But also like Carl Tuttle, and you chat to him, and then and we spread that out wider to other people. You can put value on someone by the company they keep. I think, and I think it's fair to say that. There's no hints there that you're just going to run off with any money or anything stupid like that, Because
doesn't work like that at all, though.
No, absolutely. But those people also wouldn't be around you if they were that type of person as well. No. That's my character reference for Pete there. But yeah, but the fact is, you're right. You've put on events around the country now. You've taken a small. Kind of scale event which you've kept to a certain amount of people. I say small, reasonably sized, should we say? Which you've taken places, had success, had people keep coming back to you. And I think anyone who's been to those events will see that they were handled professionally and executed well and everything like that. And if someone's going to do that with their hobby time, running events, there's a good chance they're going to carry that into their work as well. So,
yeah, thank you. Yeah, hopefully so.
I wouldn't just get, if someone just messaged me and said, I play Heresy and I also do this, I probably wouldn't get them on the show. So, that's the small and short of it. And as you say, if you're going to pay out for these things, there are, schemes out there, money backs and whatever and all that kind of stuff. Why not make it that every so often you get a little bit of free hobby money that you kind of forgot that was coming?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's essentially what it is, right? It's a little loyalty scheme for geeks. That's simply it in a nutshell. And it's what I do as a profession. So that's where the idea came from. How, try and get the word around on it a bit, really, and drum something up and make it a bit more fun. And I want to, like anything, you want to grow it, right? It'd be great to eventually maybe do like a meetup or some sort of not an event, but like maybe a painting competition. Or I don't know, something in the future. Who knows? But, it's very early doors at the moment, early stages. But the more interest it gets, the more you can push things forward with those sort of things, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also a show that you might have to completely, something unrelated to hobby, but there are ways of utilising your hobby and also benefiting the community of your hobby through something that isn't necessarily obvious as that as well.
I'm not going to give an example of like probably the most what's the words to use? The best thing which has happened so far from this is one. I'm not going to name anyone, obviously, but someone, my close friend, who's obviously a fellow gamer as well. Their insurance sum was never ever going to end up with their partner, the way it was arranged, and they were completely unaware of that. And when you look at it, that would make such a huge difference for what would happen to their home in that situation, because that person would then no longer be able to pay off the mortgage, all these sort of situations. And they were absolutely amazed. And it wasn't the fact that they were saving a little bit of money, like you're not talking huge amounts each month here. And it wasn't really then about the vouchers either. In that point, it was like, holy hell, if something does happen to me, my partner's literally not going to be able to have the house because there's not going to be enough to pay it off, and that mortgage can't be paid by that sole person. But they were under the illusion that was what was happening and what would happen, and that's something we see time and time again. So yeah, it's even, as I keep saying, it's even if it's the case that you do have these things in place, there's usually something A, better, but B, they're probably not arranged the way they
Sure.
need to be.
And
Quite often is the case.
yeah, absolutely. And that's where, unfortunately, stereotypes are there for a reason, because there have been plenty of unscrupulous people in the past. And I'm sure in all industries there will be in the future. You're a broker, though, aren't you? So you're separate from what you're doing. So you haven't got an agenda in that sense.
No, I don't work for an insurance company. So I work with all of them essentially.
So you're
not biased to who we're using and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely,
you choose the company that's right. For that person, essentially.
And that's where tying someone into a contract with someone else isn't benefiting you the same way it would if that company sold that policy. So you're taking that element of worry for people who think they might be getting shafted. Your job, your business reputation is based on getting the right product for the right person.
Yeah, it's all reputation as well, right?
Yeah.
Number one, you don't want to do something bad for someone because it's not the way I'm inclined to think or act. But secondly, if you do something not great, then it's going to, bad news travels twice as fast, isn't it?
It absolutely does.
Saying, right?
Yeah. So just give us a brief rundown. So you mentioned, so essentially we're anyone who takes out a policy, does it have to be a certain value on the policy?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so premium of £20 a month would be the minimum amount. There's no minimum term length, if you like, of when you'd have to stay into this for. However, these tend to be things that people will arrange for years and years and years because ultimately it will cover like a mortgage or the raising of a child. It's not something that people put in place for a year or so. But there's no like minimum term, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And then the way the vouchers are paid out, they're paid out £25 in increments. So yeah, without getting too detailed, essentially on the 7th month, and then every 12 months from there forwards. For the first 4 payments are equal into the £100 essentially. And then, as I said, each community prize draw of 1,000. So at the moment we're at £700 of vouchers awarded. So once that hits the £1,000, which would be those 10 clients essentially that I keep going on about, that will then pay out another £25 to a member of the community, plus £25 to a member of the community and people that follow us on social. And then you've also got the option to refer friends for £25 in vouchers and all sorts of different things. So there's lots of ways of getting the rewards.
Excellent. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. As I say, it's that kind of thing where, who thinks about their insurance policy once they've done it? Well, as you proved,
no one does,
you proved, no one does, because you just assume it's there and that's it. It's tucked away. But after, let's say, a period of time, if you get a £25 gift voucher in the email or the post or whatever, then winner chicken dinner. It's free money, isn't it? Free money.
Yeah, it's literally is that.
So as I say, I think it's just a case of if you're going to get these. If you're going to get a product anyway, then why not get some geek vouchers for it? If you haven't considered getting a policy, then it's well worth taking the time to think about it, whether you get it or not. Particularly if you've got dependents or something like that, and we all hate spending money we don't think we need to spend, but the nature of the beast is worst case scenario. You'd be thankful that you've done something.
Absolutely, and as I think I maybe hit it to you before, Greg, it's not really like yourself. You don't have anything currently, right? Without sounding rude or selective, I guess here, I'm not necessarily wanting to arrange things for people who don't have anything in place currently. As it's fine if people need it. That's the most important thing.
Sure,
but where someone already has an existing life insurance policy for a mortgage, for example, it's those people where there's probably something considerably better for basically the same cost, and then you're going to get your vouchers on top of that anyway. And then, like the example I gave earlier about my friend who his insurance was never going to go to someone, it's so important to have things reviewed and make sure they're actually doing what they need to do.
Yeah, big time.
So I'm not really interested in selling as such to people who don't have anything in place. That's really not what this is about. It's, more a case of, hey, you're already paying £50 a month, £20 a month, £100, whatever it is, for this. Let's just make sure it's actually doing what it needs to do. And, if there's something better that makes more sense for the same sort of cost or less or whatever, then great, let's do that. And then also you get vouchers on top. So,
cool.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, fair enough. That and that's right. I say if you can save X amount of pounds a month and get a bonus, then brilliant. And if you can get the right product rather than one that doesn't work, brilliant. But also, I say from my point of view, I think that it's important just to maybe just stop and have a little think about things as well. And it might be the case where you sit and think about it and say, actually, don't need it. Cool. Well, at least you're aware now of your situation that little bit. And I must admit, I was quite surprised with the when you gave me the options for what you gave me. I was like, oh, okay. My thoughts about what life insurance would cost and whatever were not a million miles from the truth, but were different enough from a value that I got given that I was like, oh, okay. People were scared of like what someone coming back and saying a huge sum of money when it was actually very reasonable when you consider the other outlays you have in your life. I'd probably pay more for the cats than I would for this.
You complete. I think it's I can't remember what it is. 1 in 3 people will pay more for their pet insurance than their own insurance for themselves.
Yeah,
I think for those who have both, it's something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's not. You're not alone there. It's crazy.
It is, and in fact, my wife turned around to me at the time and said, "Greg, basically, I asked her. I was trying to look at reducing the cost on the cat insurance, and I'm like, if our cat gets ill, how?" And she's like, "We're going to do whatever we need to do." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll keep the insurance then. That's fine." And she said to me, "Greg, you're moaning about the cat insurance, and now you're talking about life insurance." And I'm like, "There's a fundamental difference. If we need cat insurance, that's one thing. If we need this insurance, right, that's slightly more important. There's a different weight on the scale here of what we're looking at." So, but yeah, it made me laugh, bless her. But and it's even if you won't, I will say that it's probably worth taking that 5 minutes just to have a little think. But yeah, and where can we find you?
Yeah, cool. So we're on Facebook. It's Geek Shield. On Instagram, it's Geek Shield UK, and on just web, it's geekshield.co.uk. Simple as that. And if anyone has any questions or whatever, then feel free to obviously drop us a message, and you can book an appointment if you really want to. Go straight for that way online as well. But yeah, just even a quick casual chat is the best way to kick these things off, I've found.
Sure. I'll throw those links in the show notes as well, just to make it a little bit easier if you didn't quite catch that. So you can head through the show notes. Anything else you want to add before we head off?
I think that's it. Thank you very much for letting us talk about something not necessarily hobby related, but in a roundabout way, I guess it can be.
Yeah.
And thanks for your time.
No worries. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
And you've made it to the end of another episode of The Imperial Truth. I want to thank you all for listening. This is being recorded on New Year's Eve itself, and it's been another turbulent year. It has its ups and downs, but and the show's reflected that a little bit. But you guys who've listened all the way through and have engaged and come up and said hello or whatever, it's been great, to be honest. It's really appreciated. As I said before, the show will be changing. The next episode now won't be out till the end of January. I'm going to go away and start making some notes. In fact, I've got some ideas, but hopefully we can have a better prepared show because of that. But it is going to be once a month from now on, and that's a bit weird, but hopefully good. And that's not to say it will be that way forever, but we'll see how things go. It's just over 2 months now, and baby's due. We've got Blood and Glory coming. I want to try and get to Nova, and as we said a lot in the last few episodes, I think Heresy is going to be interesting this year as well. I'm looking forward to 2020 in a way I probably haven't looked forward to many years before. Just feels slightly different, but fingers crossed it will be an absolute great one for all of you and for Heresy as a whole. I hope that we see the start of that at the New Year's Open Day, which is only a couple of days away from me. If you're listening before that, obviously some of you might be listening afterwards, but fingers crossed we're going to have some form of presence there. I really feel that if we do, it will help. Just if we don't, people are going to moan, and there's going to be that little bit of concern. But if we do get a good presence there, and it doesn't have to be huge amounts, but it has to be something. There has to be something there. They've shown off some of the new models on the road to Thramos, so hopefully maybe if you've shown them online, they can have them there. At least people can get a look at them. Maybe a few more. Fingers crossed that we see something like the new tank and the I can't remember what they're called now, the Dark Angels models, but I'm not going. Darren will be from Age of Darkness, I'm sure. So after the event, when he gets back home and writes up, then I'm sure there'll be plenty of info there. And Garrow as well on Facebook usually does good write-ups of these things. Obviously the official information will all be out on Warhammer Community as well, but there are little bits and pieces that come out of these events which are can be interesting to find out. If you want to get hold of the show, you can email me, greg@theimperialtruth.com. You can find us on Facebook, Imperial Truth, and at Imperial_Truth on Twitter. As I say, we've got Blood and Glory out this year. I think we should be getting an announcement soon. I've said that before, but I'm more confident this year that we'll be getting announcements soon. We're shaking up the organisation of that in terms of trying to make sure we're better than last year and we can improve going forwards. Still looking for. I've had a couple of people offer some support for that, but if you are free to volunteer for the event or in various shapes and forms, there's things that need to be done. Still ironing out details as well. Obviously, we're very early on in the stages of that, but that should be good. But yeah, if you want to support the show, we have the Patreon. Massive thank you to patrons for all your support you've given me. Anyone who's ever been a patron, consider it a tip jar, should I say, where you choose an amount, and I do it per month, not per show or anything like that. So if any extra shows come out, you're not suddenly charged extra, but you can put a cap on it as well. So there are ways of making sure that you're in control of what's being spent. Anyone who takes their hard-earned cash and says thank you via giving me a little bit of it, I think is amazing and slightly strange. But it's a massive thank you for me, for anyone who's done that. And we also have merch in the store as well. Maybe in January, maybe February, I want to try and get a few more little bits up on that and try and get that. The links for the merch are in the show notes, also still on the Facebook page as well. There's some quite cool stuff on there, I think. So yeah, feel free to give that a look. But I'm in danger of going on and repeating myself, which is far too common an occurrence for me, I know. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to send off 2019 from the show. It's been an interesting one, generally good. 2020 is coming. Let's make it even better. You have been listening to The Imperial Truth.